Yeah.
in whatever else I was doing with the rest of the universe. And so that was an important reality check for me, that no matter what I'm doing in the sky, there's stuff happening on Earth that still deserves my attention.
Absolutely. And you articulate those two, you connect those two in Stereo Messenger in a great way, because even though you're taking us into a journey of seeing the Earth from above, you're talking about the issues that we're facing today. And I'd like to get on that later on. And then the second quote that is on your book, which will put us on the, on the mindset of seeing the Earth from the outside, is a quote from Edgar Mitchell, the Apollo 14 astronaut. And he said that, quote, "You develop an instant global consciousness, a people orientation, an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and a compulsion to do something about it. From out there on the moon, international politics looks so petty. You want to grab a politician by the scruff of the neck and drag him 250,000 miles out and say, 'Look at that, you son of a bitch.'"
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
that,
But you got to say it with a little more emotion. Look at that, you son of a bitch.
yeah,
You got to say it with a punch,
good
because that's
fun.
how he surely intended that.
Yeah.
Just how different things look from afar.
And then on, you speak on how President Clinton in his office had a piece of a rock from the moon, And he used to, in some meetings, he used to point that out, point the rock on the moon, and said, "There's something bigger than us, that are petty politics," quote unquote.
But from what he told me, he would point it out if the meeting, because this was in the Oval Office and there's a table where you can sit around, and if he had opposite people with opposing views, either from Congress or from heads of state, and it gets a little tense, he just points to the rock and said, "That's from the moon." And it was like, "Oh," and it completely changes the mood and the vision of what can be achieved in the meeting. So he apparently used it to great effect.
Absolutely. And that was my question. It was putting that perspective in politics and putting that perspective in our own lives. What does that make? What does that change in the way we see the world, and in terms of the quote unquote pettiness of the things that we're fighting for, and the structures of the world, thinking that there's something above us and beyond us, and also we're made out of stars. How does that play into, me loving baseball, for example?
No, it won't affect whether you love or don't love baseball, but it will affect how you think about other human beings on Earth. Look at how much effort we invest dividing ourselves. And it's huge. What side of this line in the sand were you born in? Who do you worship? Who do you sleep with? What's your hair color? What language do you speak? There are all of these ways we divide one another on Earth. And it's very tribal when you think about it. And what the universe tells us is we're all the same, really. Our atoms are traceable to stars that manufactured them in their core, exploded, scattered that enrichment across the galaxy, from which you have next generations of star systems, one of which was the solar system. So we are stardust that came together on a planet, achieving consciousness. And this is profound. We have genetic connectivity with each other and all life on Earth. We have molecular connectivity to the Earth itself, and atomic connectivity to the cosmos. So how will it help you every day? It won't put food on your plate necessarily, but it will definitely compel you. For when you see people who are different from you, you're less likely to say to yourself, they're different, so therefore they got what they deserved because they're different. No, you're going to say, we're the same. And so maybe there's some absence of opportunity. There's some sense of the world that could be more widespread, so that I'm not thinking of them as an other. I'm thinking of them as one of myself.
Wow.
And when you do that, you'll probably treat them differently, more kindly, more compassionately.
Yeah. I would like to add that, and personally speaking, that when I read your book and when I see your ideas and when I hear your ideas, that it also creates on me a bigger emphasis on honoring my time on Earth, knowing that I'm finite. Even though we're made of infinite space, we're finite. We're here for a blink of an eye. And that automatically in itself is an echo of what you said, that I know that me and you won't be here for, knock on wood, hopefully 120 years. That in itself creates an automatic sense of compassion to one another. You know, we're just here. I don't know if you want to refute what serendipity means and if we can trace it, you know, in a mathematical way, but it feels cosmical, even spiritual, that we can enjoy Earth here together, enjoy life here together. So the effort that we're putting into dividing one another, imagine if we put that, like you say, into realizing the specialty of living here together.
Yeah, and there's, of course, it's all special. There's nothing more special today than yesterday, or nothing more special today and yesterday compared with tomorrow. But we don't have much time on this earth. It feels like a lifetime, which it is, but as you said, it's a blink of an eye on an earth calendar. And so that's another cosmic perspective to bring to bear on your life. How will you live your everyday life? As though you're going to live forever, or as though, I have a finite amount of time left. Let me make the best of it. Let me make sure the world is better off for me having lived in it. And so, yeah, all this is coursing through me at all times.
Yeah, and you finish Starry Messenger with a quote that says, make your life's efforts to rise the levels of humanity, to make an impact in humanity as a whole. And I remember that you said previously that that's what you want on your tombstone. And that
be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity. Wow. That's a quote from Horace Mann, the educator. Yeah.
Yeah, and that perspective, I'm in my 20s and I keep thinking that I can't, it just doesn't make sense anymore in today's world to keep living a life that is based on ego, that is based on...
Right. What are you doing? Right.
Knowing that we're stars, knowing that and it's just crazy. And also, and I'm going to be 100% real with you, it also created kind of like this existential angst that maybe I wasn't fulfilling my time on Earth as I wanted to, maybe working at a job that I didn't want to, or caving into societal pressures. And I remember you've mentioned previously, back in 1978, when you were in Colombia, your wrestling partner told you something really, really difficult to hear, that the Black community couldn't afford someone of your intellect being an astrophysicist. And, for me personally, that could create a lot of burden to follow that advice, follow those words, and do what was expected from me, rather than what was emerging from my emotions, from my passions. And connecting it with our time on Earth, which is finite, how are you able to have the courage and have also the integrity to follow your heart? And, in hindsight, it paid off. But back in the day, it was a very hard decision, no?
Yeah, especially growing up in a family that invested so much of their lives, my parents, so much of their lives in helping the plight of others. That made it all the more difficult. What I did know, which was very clear to me, is if I study that which I love the most, I will be better at it ultimately than I will ever be at anything else I could possibly study. So I knew that if I could contribute to the world, I'm probably better able to contribute to the world doing what I do best. And so that was foundational to that decision. And it remains true to this day. I feel quite confident.
Yeah, and that's one of the paradoxes, no, that in today's, well, everywhere, it seems that people think they know better than us, but paradoxically, when we follow our heart, it's when we do the most impact, and you've been the example of it.